Shelley Miscavige. She has not appeared in public since 2005.
Where's Shelley and what happened?
Where is Shelley?
We're looking at like 17 years of a person just missing.
Shelley Miscavige was given into the sole care of L. Ron Hubbard by her parents when she was 12.
This is where Shelley is believed to be being held captive.
Do you believe that Shelley Miscavige is a threat today?
Oh,
absolutely.
She's seen it all. She's been by his side the whole time.
Welcome to the channel. I'm your host for today, Claire Headley. This is our next episode of my series, Where is Shelley Miscavige? My guest today is the beautiful, talented, and amazing Amy Scobee. I so appreciate you joining me today, Amy.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. And you're just as beautiful, if not more.
And so to give you kind of my my thoughts and kind of what inspired this series, you and I both know Shelley Miscavige personally. Yeah. I knew Shelley for 13 years, and I worked with her very closely for 8 of those years. And actually for 4 of those years, I reported to her directly, met with her almost every day.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, and chime in wherever you'd like, it's occurred to me that over the years, the narrative regarding Scientology has dramatically changed. And that's because of the many incredibly brave people like yourself and like Leah Remini who have spoken out about the abuses that have occurred in Scientology for decades at this point. And Leah could have very well just walked away from Scientology and just gotten on with her life, right? But instead, and she could have accepted the status quo when she started asking where's Shelley and gotten all kinds of trouble for that. But instead, she had the bravery to go, no, it's not okay. Where is Shelley? And where, to me, it used to be, if you'd mention Scientology, people would just say, oh, that's that crazy thing with Tom Cruise jumping up and down on a couch. Now it's, oh, yes, Scientology, I've heard of that. And by the way, where is Shelley Miscavige?
Exactly. Yeah. People want to know.
Yeah.
The word's getting out.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, even more, it's not only that she's his wife, and we'll get to your thoughts and perspective on this too. Shelley was his closest, she was essentially his first lady. She was the next in command. She was everywhere that he was. She witnessed everything that he did.
That's right.
And she was the second top executive in Scientology, and now she's vanished for 18 years.
And she was so respected inside Scientology too, because she worked for L. Ron Hubbard directly. She was his messenger, and so she did a lot of the messenger training. She did messenger training with me as well, and when you got certified by her on your steps to becoming a real true messenger, it was something that you were to be very proud of.
Yes, of course. And messengers, of course, the origin being the young teenagers that worked with Hubbard on the ship, right? Which you're right. Shelley became a messenger, I think, at the age of 12. 12 years old.
Yeah. And there were all kinds of things that you got taught. You were taught how to properly iron uniform shirts, or L. Ron Hubbard shirts, how to do the laundry and wash his shirts 15 times. Because he couldn't stand any odors, and taking shorthand and running messages that are an exact duplication of what it was meant to be said, and obtaining compliance. It's all kinds of different things. But she was definitely respected, especially amongst the people of the Commodore's Messenger Org.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And don't you think? What are your thoughts on this? I've seen people say, well, why not just have Shelley do a video and say, hey, I'm okay?
I mean, there's no way that David Miscavige would let a camera near her.
Right. No, and I agree. And then I've heard people say, oh, no, he would never do that because then, the SPs are right. And he would never follow a request like that. However, then I was playing devil's advocate on this and thinking, but wait a minute, he has done this before where he's trotted out on Anderson Cooper's A History of Violence.
Oh my gosh, he did do that.
Right. He brought out all the ex-wives to say, oh, it's all lies.
Yeah.
Because
that did more damage for Scientology's reputation than what he thought he was doing, because they all looked like abused victims. You know?
Right. And they all said the exact same line. I know every inch of his body.
Or who says things like that on national television? Oh, God.
I know, true. But my point being, so maybe he learned a lesson from that. I kind of doubt it. But playing devil's advocate, I would say he thought that served his purpose. So why not do the same with Shelley, unless she actually does want to leave and can't?
I don't know. It's like it would be a POW video, just like blink in Morse code. Oh man. It's been years now. Because I left the INT base in 2003 after 20 years of working there and seeing her everywhere. And then I left and I went to Florida until I actually left the Sea Org in 2005. But in between there is when she went missing, right? 2004 or something like that. So she's been it
was actually mid 2005.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I left in January 2005 is when I escaped.
Yes.
And as best as I've been able to pin it down, it's between 2005 and 2006, but I absolutely believe the last time she was with David Miscavige in her normal role as you and I knew her to be carrying out was until July 2005. That's when all hell broke loose in Shelley's world.
Right. It was breaking loose before I even left, though, which I've got stories about. Because I knew that
those.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was definitely breaking loose, and she wasn't agreeing with Miscavige, with her husband or her boss, but she actually displayed it a little bit. Like, it wasn't just behind closed doors. It was becoming evident, and it had got my clock turning too. That isn't okay what he's saying or how he's treating you or what he's doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to me, and again, the reason, another piece of what inspired me to want to do this is, first of all, you and I could have easily been in that same position that Shelley's in right now.
Minutes. I got off that base just before they locked the doors on the stupid trailer that was my home for years. So yeah, I could easily be there.
Right. And in my case, even I've reflected on this too. Speaking of Anderson Cooper's A History of Violence show, had they actually dragged me back when they intercepted me in Las Vegas when I was escaping at the bus station, I could have been one of those women trotted out there.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? I mean, it seriously gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. Thank goodness I got the heck out of there. I mean, it's awful. But anyway, back to Shelley.
Thank God.
Yes.
Really. I say my phrases all the time.
Yes.
That I was able to get out of there. And oh my God.
Yes.
But
yeah, so back to the topic. Easily it could have been you or I locked up. And had that been the case, I would have hoped and prayed that somebody would notice that I had vanished.
Yeah.
Or you had vanished, and again,
I know
if there's
my family wouldn't have known.
Right.
Who were we in touch with? I was always out of touch, so it wouldn't be anything unusual whatsoever.
Right. And even if there's a 1% chance that Shelley wants to get out of there, let's keep talking about this. That's my perspective.
For sure. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And, and then plus, it's just, what happened to her? Where is she? Really, for real, where is she? How is she? It's been 17 years that she's AWOL. So is she 6 feet under somewhere? Or are you, she's a captive. She's either a slave or she's gone. So where is she? She's a person that we knew, and we want to know where she is.
Yes, exactly. And also, before we get into, I'll let you take the floor on your experiences with Shelley. To me, also, this question, where is Shelley Miscavige, epitomizes everything that is wrong with Scientology.
Sum it up in that question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, all right, into the show. So how about we start with when did you first meet Shelley Miscavige, and let's go through all those details.
Okay. Well, I went to the international headquarters base in Hemet in 1983, but they were really at author services in LA, so I didn't have a lot of interaction, even though I was at the international headquarters, until they came to kind of take over in 1987, and that's a whole thing in itself. But that's when I started having interactions with both David Miscavige and Shelley.
Okay, and of course the takeover is when Hubbard passed away, and Miscavige wrangled his way into his power position that he holds to this day, right?
That's exactly correct. And boy, did things change after he took over. I mean, no family pictures in your office, no plants in your office. The whole place was put under lower conditions and as a group, and we were all days off got canceled. All kinds of things changed under him. No music in the offices. Anyway, whatever. He's just a tyrant. But so I was in the executive council of Commoner's Messenger Org International at that time. Okay. And so I was what's called an organizing officer for the chief officer over all the production divisions and the Watchdog Committee. And so whenever something went wrong with one of the people under our charge, it came to me to remedy. And so Miscavige would have me report to him what I was doing on these people, especially like the unit that wrote LRH's policy, L. Ron Hubbard's policy and tech, which is Research and Technology Center. That group of people were in trouble often because he was trying to get them to do things. So I was having to write individual programs on everyone there and report to him. But the first time that I really had interaction with Shelley it's called a supercargo. It's over the personnel departments, the ethics, treasury, promotion, all this stuff.
Yes.
And
like the real world equivalent of human resources.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. With a few little extras shaken in there.
Yes. But colorful, but that kind of equivalent.
Yeah. The Religious Technology Center, especially David Miscavige's office, was directly handling celebrities. And they were there. The RTC auditors were auditing the celebrities. Celebrity Center at the time was unrenovated. They were out in trailers while the building was being renovated, and there was like no celebrities really on their lines there at all because it was like just a muddy mess down there.
And what year was this now?
1990 that I'm talking about right now.
Okay, 1990. And talk about, just side comment.
Yeah.
Ironically, 1990, I remember those trailers because I was actually a public training at Celebrity Center
you were
at that time.
Shelley asked me to do a project for her, which was to man up Tom Cruise's household with qualified Scientologists so that he was surrounded by Scientologists to keep him in the fold. And so I had a list of different things that I had to hire for, which was like a maid, a cook, a nanny, all these things.
Wow,
and so
already back in 1990, Shelley was manning up Tom Cruise's household.
Yeah.
Wow. And
what's so funny, when I went to Tom Cruise's house, he wasn't there when I went there. I went there with Tommy Davis, and Jenny Gaynor was there, who's from the L. Ron Hubbard's household unit, but she's taking care of Tom Cruise, so he's getting the special treatment. And I found out that a lot of people were working there. They built a whole in-house theater, big, beautiful theater in there, and the sound system was from the audiovisual team at the Int base, and so he was getting mega special free labor from Scientology, and I'm sitting there manning up his household.
Yeah, and of course we know that continued up until when we left. So
yeah, John Brousseau has great stories about that. Yeah, about all the stuff that he did for him and made for him. People can look that up. It's amazing.
Yes.
I didn't know any of it was going on besides what I was doing, and to see all of that, it kind of was pretty surprising to me. Tom Cruise, we're going to kiss your ass until you until you're in propitiation. I don't know. Anyway, so I did this project. And so what I had to do is I had to video my interviews with people and then send the videos with a completed staff work proposal to Shelley saying, you know, what I think, should this person be hired? Should it not be hired? Give her the 4 videos of the people that I did and with my recommendation of who should be hired for that specific position. So I did that for a while down in Los Angeles in WISE, the World Institute of Scientology Enterprise front group for Scientology. That's where I was doing the interviews.
Okay.
How many
people do you think you interviewed over what kind of a time period, just for context?
I mean, it was several weeks, and I don't know, like 20 people or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And all Scientologists.
They had to be Scientologists, and they had to have certain requirements, and they had to be beautiful and skinny and all these different things. I remember proposing a nanny that, you know, was a little bit overweight, and it was a flap, you know. Yeah. So then from there, there was no Watchdog Committee member for Celebrity Center. And, but anyway, I was interacting with Shelley a lot on that project. And so it came up that I was potential for it because of my interacting, you know, on this project. And so I remember being in Shelley's little apartment in Los Angeles, and she made us waffles. And she was talking about becoming the Watchdog Committee member for the Celebrity Center. And she said, you know, you could get your teeth fixed. And I'm like, what's the matter with my teeth?
Okay.
I had baby teeth, you know. So she said, the in-house dentist can fix your teeth. And so it was ordered that the in-house dentist fix my teeth from the COB's office. And so I got this stupid bridge with a metal plate and the little teeth implants where it would break off by this guy who was just really should not have been a dentist.
Bob Horn, right?
Bob Horn, that's right. Yeah, he fixed me right up.
Oh my gosh, I know. We could do a whole episode just on the nightmares of Bob Horn, the dentist.
The whole medical office there.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But either way, we won't diverge for now.
So then I was appointed as the Watchdog Committee member for Celebrity Centers. Now, when I went on that job, because everything was being done by RTC, and now there's a person in Watchdog Committee, Shelley wanted me to do every single condition formula step as you're going on a new position. You do condition formulas like not new post non-existence formula, where you then go on up like the danger formula, emergency formula, all the way until you're normal in power. Yeah. And so she wanted every step of every condition submitted to her for approval.
Oh wow.
So yeah, that was fun to get the handling of celebrities back over to Celebrity Center. And it was a project because they didn't have trained staff. They didn't have anyone trusted down there. They didn't even have a building. So I just did a ton of projects to get the place renovated and staffed up and everyone trained and so on and so forth. And that's a whole thing in itself. It was extensive, but it did happen. And Celebrity Center expanded to a big going concern. So then, while I was a WDCCC, or Watchdog Committee member for Celebrity Centers is what that means. And
again, I think you said it, but it is the top management position in Scientology over Celebrity Centers, right?
Yes, yes. And I was on that. I had that job for about 10 years. So I definitely...
Which is like a lifetime in Scientology.
It's a lifetime.
Years, right? Not only by the number of hours you worked, but also by the fact that most people would never last that long on a position like that.
Yeah, and usually in Scientology, you're like on a job, off a job, on a job, off a job, up and down, up and down. But that one I was on for a while. Yes. And then So Shelley and I became friends during that time, and she would throw birthday party for me, and we became friends. And one time, she asked me. So at the dining hall, Dave Miscavige sat at the captain's table.
And you're talking about the base in Hemet.
At the dining hall at the Hemet.
Yes.
International headquarters in base.
Yes. The Massacre Canyon Inn, MCI. Yep. Yeah,
we call it MCI because it was called Massacre Canyon originally, but it's the big dining hall where everybody would eat. And so the big captain's table was David Miscavige's table, and then next to it was the Watchdog Committee. So I sat at a table next to David Miscavige and whatever executives he had sitting with him.
Yes.
And Shelley was like, come over and, you need to make this your table. Come sit with me, Mm. And I said, no, thank you. And she's like, why not? And then I look over at Miscavige and she said, I can never have any friends, Wow. So yeah, I felt for her because I'm not going to sit there. I knew what it would be like. I'd be berated, and talk about things I didn't want to talk about. I couldn't just have a meal. So I didn't want to do it. And I made it kind of clear that that's why I was her freaky husband.
Wow. And what year was that? Roughly?
Probably 96 or no, 94, probably.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah. So even back then, there were cracks forming in terms of Shelley's situation.
Yeah. She knew. I mean, how can she have friends?
Right.
Yeah, with that guy as her husband. There's no privacy or personal communication. I felt like when I was alone with her, I could totally talk to her and be myself. But the second he was there, it was no, you could not. You cannot be. There was nothing personal. When the day we were eating waffles in her room, he came in, took off his shirt, and walking around in his room with a t-shirt on him. I'm like, I need to exit stage left really fast.
Right.
But so one time we were at. This is the time. This was interesting to me. It had a big impact on me. We were at Celebrity Center. It was going to be the day of the gala, one of the gala events. It was held every year. I don't remember which year this was, probably 93 maybe. And I was supposed to have David Miscavige's speech ready.
And you were supposed to write
speeches. I don't write speeches. Ronnie Miscavige was the one who was writing it, and he didn't like what Ronnie wrote, and he was pissed at me for not having his speech ready. Okay, he's supposed to, in an hour and a half, go and stand up there and speak to all the top celebrities and everybody who's at the gala, and he didn't like the speech. So of course, he's totally pissed off. We're in the president's office, and he rips up the entire thing that was prepared for him. And he just starts handwriting whatever it is that he's going to say. And he handwrites it all out and he finishes it. And then he comes over and grabs me around the neck and throttles me.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And he says, next time you're going to the rehabilitation project force.
Wow.
And so, of course, it's in front of all my juniors who are there in the president's office and everything else, which whatever, it shows his colors. But
yeah.
But it throttled me.
Psychopath.
I mean, I just tried to make sure that gala was the best, was totally set up. I mean, there's a lot of details to doing that. Yeah. All the food, all the celebrities, all the parking, all the everything, security, and his dang speech. And if he's going to do a speech, write it, sucker.
Right.
That's what I say to him now, right?
Yeah, no, I know, right?
Yeah, but so Shelley's there, and so I probably smoked 500 cigarettes. I just kind of walked around, just what just happened.
Right.
And the event went off without a hitch. I was actually pretty shocked that he was able to just get up there and rattle off a speech, that he just hand wrote with his chicken scratch 2 minutes before.
Yeah. For all we know, to be fair, he may have just written his own speech before.
Already. Yeah. And then he was just showing off.
Right.
So then Shelley calls me over kind of after everything has died down and people are just mingling at tables and stuff like that. And it's such a beautiful ambience there. with all the twinkle lights and everything set up beautifully. And she sits me down and she says, I want to promote you to being responsible for all Scientology organizations around the world, because I want you to make them just like Celebrity Center.
Wow.
I'm looking at her like, were you just like there?
Did you not just see what I just went through? Holy crap.
Okay, now I need another cigarette.
Yeah, right? Or another 500.
Oh, man. So shortly thereafter, I was made the Watchdog Committee member for all Scientology organizations, all Sea Org organizations, and all celebrity centers. And so I had that, as well as the Flag Bureau, which is the management over all of those organizations. So my name tag was like, WCSOSEN, CCFB, across my entire thing. And so that's how that ended up. But I individually got replaced on each one of them, because then in 1996, I became the command channels in charge for the new era of management. And it was a big project, never slept, had to get tons of command team personnel for every continent together, trained and fired out. And I was one of the people that were fired out too, as the commanding officer of what's called the CMO International Extension Unit. It's like a CMO in LA. And so I fired on that. But I was removed because just like a couple months after that, because my husband at the time, who was the commanding officer in West US, had attended an event that Miscavige was pissed that he did. So both my husband and I got escorted back to the int base. Wait,
because you attended an event?
Not me, because Jim, who was my husband at the time, he spoke as the COC, commanding officer of the Continental Liaison Office for West US.
Right.
He spoke at one of those. Yeah, but it wasn't in West US. It was in East US. And so DM was really pissed because,
I see.
But what Jim was responsible for were the advanced orgs that were responsible for the whole West US, for the whole continent, or all of US. So that's why he spoke at it. But anyway, Miscavige was pissed, called us both up, had us escorted driven back up to the international headquarters. Jim was sent to the Rehabilitation Project Force. It was the last time I saw him in 4 years.
Wow.
And I was put at the swamp for 2 months under guard on heavy manual labor. And the shower that I used was the same one that Mark Yeager was using, which is because he was out there in the swamp in a cage that he built with bamboo, like we were talking about the other day.
Yeah. Gosh, I have to just stop you for a second and just go, holy crap, I had no idea. At this time, even though I knew and worked with you, so we're talking 96 at this point?
That would have been, yes.
Yeah, so I was in Clearwater, Florida. I just had no idea you spent 2 months in the swamp. Like, what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this girl, Christy Mullins, was my watch.
Oh, Christy Mullins?
Yeah.
She was my escort to my eye doctor's appointment when I blew and escaped.
Oh, that's so funny.
She probably went back to the Rehabilitation Project Force for letting me escape. Or
totally untrusted.
I totally trust her
now. Yeah, she was always the kind of like straight-laced person that would comply to whatever order she was given. So it was terrible to have her as a watch because
she kind of had the personality of no offense to bulldogs, but kind of like a bulldog or a pit bull kind of, like nothing, and again,
she was not somebody
either, but this was a very mean person. Let's just leave dogs out of it. She was a very mean, sour person.
Yeah, it made the whole thing just terrible.
Yeah.
But so what was interesting before Yeager was removed was so there was this time in CMO International where Miscavige was on to Yeager. Like, it came up that Yeager was getting alerted whenever Miscavige was on his way back to the base. And so Miscavige was pissed off about that and felt that he was a treasonous ass and all this.
Just because he was finding out that Miscavige was on his way back to the property.
Yeah.
And
I guess he didn't want to know. He wanted the shock and awe of arriving and catching everybody off guard because he's an ass. But so that was what we were briefed on. So we were all called up to Miscavige's office and briefed on what a traitor he is. He's still my boss. He's still COCM, commanding officer of Commodore's Messenger Org International and Watchdog Committee chairman at that time. But a bunch of us were called up. A bunch of us were called up around him and briefed. And so we were supposed to go and handle him. So we go down, and then I get a phone call from Shelley, and she says, "Why haven't you taken over as COCMO International?" I'm like, do you see what happens to them?
Right. Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, not going to happen. And we had a meeting. Of course, was
not an option. We're joking, but you don't say no to a request like that, really.
Oh, I know. Yeah, but I did.
Oh, nice. You did.
I did say no. I did say no, and we had a meeting to figure out between me, Kathy, and Mike Render, and who else was in there? Guillaume and Ronnie. So those are the people who got together to decide who was going to be COCM International. And I kept saying, Mark. And I didn't want to do it. Number one, you're just going to get blown to pieces anyway. Right. Number two, I was never sleeping on what I was doing in the first place. And, Mark Ingerer been around 800,000 years, and he's a punching bag, so just put him on it. And that's what happened is he was put on it, and then then I think it was when I fired down to IXU, CMRXU and everything. I don't remember the exact timing, but yeah, then that's when Miss Yeager went to the cage and built himself a cage down there at the swamp. Yeah. He was there for a couple of years, and until he went to the rehabilitation project for us. And then he came back, and I think he went back onto his position. But it was, Miscavige was saying he is the real deal SP. Right. And he was saying that that David Miscavige was potential trouble source because he was connected to Mark Yeager. Right.
And for context sake, and to bring this back to Shelley, what's to say that Shelley's not now under similar circumstances to what Mark Yeager was under? Yeah. And that Miscavige is not just doing the exact same thing to his wife.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because when you're considered an enemy or a suppressive of David Miscavige or any way against him, he will take measures, and they're not pleasant. I mean, I've seen what he does, and I think that he tried to run Yeager, had somebody try to run Yeager down, and he broke his leg getting out of the way. One time, Yeager came into the office, cuts all over the top of his head, and because he's bald, you can see it, and his face. And I said, "What in the hell?" And he said, "Oh, I fell into a bush." Meantime, his communicator's looking at me like, "That's not what happened." No, I know what happened because I've seen it. Yeah. So. That was an interesting thing. And then
and again, just commentary there. Of course, no one would ever say anything bad about Miscavige there. But like the fact that Mark Yeager wouldn't even just be honest, like, "Oh, Miscavige beat me up." You couldn't even say that.
Oh no. Let alone I asked him when he had abuse. I know, and he had a cast on his leg. I said, "What the heck happened to you?" I wasn't there when it happened, and he said, "I fell."
Yeah, no. Sadie Johansson was the woman that drove after him. Miscavige ordered her to run Mark Yeager down with the car.
Yep. Another thing from Shelley. One time in the Watchdog Committee conference room, Shelley was there. David Miscavige was there. David came flying up the ramp into the main conference room area looking for Yeager. And screaming his name, and I thought, oh God, what's going to happen now? So I kind of came into the center to see what was going on, and he found Jaeger, and then he charged at him and threw him up against this tower of audiovisual equipment and bookshelves, and it all came tumbling down. And Shelley was going, Dave, 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 like this, trying to calm him down, which didn't calm him down, but at least she was, saying like, hey, let's cool it, So she did know that he was over the top. I know that she knows. And also there was another time when he was explaining superpower to us in a conference meeting, and all the steps that go into the superpower. And there's a step on this superpower program about taste, because it's all your senses, right? Yes. And so he had all these oils of these different kinds of tastes, and he wanted us all to taste all these tastes because he got these together. And so Shelley was trying to pass it out, but she wasn't passing it out how he wanted it to be passed out. So he starts screaming at her. Anyway, so she exited stage left and hit that door. It was like one of those bar doors that you go out, the heavy. She hit it so freaking hard and just left like that. And so I went, So she's not taking his crap. So she's not subservient to the point where she doesn't have a viewpoint. Because some people will just yes or yes or yes or yes or, and it's pathetic.
So you were seeing signs. In other words, she was starting to push back against his crap. Yeah.
But then shortly after that, I think she was doing lower conditions, because she sent around, there's this policy letter in Scientology called Simon Bolivar.
Right. It's the responsibilities of leaders.
The responsibility of leaders. And it gives a whole thing of how when you have a leader, you flow them 100% power.
Yes.
And so she gave everyone this, I think it was a book that even had it in it, and we were all made to word clear it, and which was extensive, because there's different forms of word clearing. Method 9 word clearing is when you read something out loud and any hesitation, you have to stop and find your misunderstood word. So you're in the dictionary the whole time. It's crazy. That was not a small thing.
Did that with you on many occasions. Sorry.
So many times. I didn't you supervise the Key to Life course?
I did, yeah.
Okay, well, I was on that stupid thing. I had to method 9 word clear the entire dictionary.
Right, yeah, and clear every definition of every small common word, including using it in multiple sentences and all that. But yeah, so go ahead. And I think I'll have to look up the name of that book, but I remember that Mark and I got a copy of that, like the original book, and gave it to Shelley and David Miscavige one year for Christmas.
Oh, well, then she turned around and got it for all the executives for us to method 9 word clear for 100 hours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the other part of that that she did was she devised an assessment, and it had all these wonderful things on it, like L. Ron Hubbard, David Miscavige, I don't know. All I know is what I read on after the assessment, which was accounting and balance sheets. So I had to spend. Luckily, I didn't read on David Miscavige, because everybody who read on David Miscavige had to put a picture of him upside down on the wall and look at it for 2 hours straight without flinching.
Yes. So, I remember this, and again, I may have done this assessment on you, but yeah, it was from a policy that Hubbard had, where it basically said that the only reason you'd struggle with something on your job is if there was something you couldn't confront and face head on. So that was where the posters came in. And like, for example, Karen Hollander, I had to make her do that on a big blow up poster of the Shrine Auditorium.
That's really going to handle it.
So yeah, exactly. So wait, so you had to, so you read on accounting and balance sheets. So what was the handling for that then?
I had to so the finance office was made to produce a whole bunch of balance sheets and accounting folders and documents and put it in front of me. You know what I did?
Yeah.
I slept. I looked at this thing and then went like this until somebody came and waked me up. And then plus, how is staring at figures on a piece of paper going to have me learn balance sheets and accounting? It's so stupid.
It is.
So it didn't work.
Pretty useless and futile, right?
Yeah, waste of time. Yeah, but so then I knew that it was part of her trying to make up the damage and deliver an effect, because part of it is making up the damage and then delivering an effective blow to the enemies. And of course, all of the executives were enemies of David Miscavige. So she was getting the executives to do different things in order to deliver a blow to us.
Yeah. And what were your observations on this? To me, Shelley was always very dedicated to finding what Hubbard policy would fix everything, right? Even David Miscavige's abuses and everything else, he wasn't the problem. It was just how could she use Hubbard's beliefs, policies, etc., to make things better. Was that your view on that, or did you have something different?
Yeah, I mean, here's another example. Like, I was Miscavige in his complete creepiness pulled me into the conference room table with Mark Yeager, and I don't know who else was there, but Shelley was there, and David Miscavige and Mark Yeager and me and probably a couple other executives, and he said, "So I want you to know that we've been doing a security check on Mark Yeager." I think I was WC Gold at the time, and over the Golden Era Productions. Yeah. That's a hot seat. Oh God. I knew when I was going to take on that post that I was going to be a banana split pretty soon. But anyway, so he said, I've been doing security checks on Mark Yeager, and I want you to know that he has an evil purpose to get you removed from post, for you to fail. And I want to know, how does that make you feel? So I'm sitting there looking at Mark Yeager, looking at David Miscavige, looking at Shelley. Like, how am I supposed to react to that?
Right.
How am I supposed to react? Okay, I don't know if it's true, but David Miscavige is saying it, and he's trying to make him feel bad for having confessed that he'd like to see me fail or whatever. And I said, it doesn't make me feel good. Yeah. And that was like the only thing I kind of could muster up. Was very anticlimactic for Miscavige. Yes. I guess he wanted to see me outraged or something. Right. But when we got up to leave, Shelley came over to me and she said, "Don't go PTS to all of this." So all of this meant the clown show that Miscavige was doing and that Yeager was doing, and it was between those two, and I was being put in the middle of it, and she pulled me aside and she said, "Don't go PTS to all of this." PTS is a potential trouble source because you have a suppressive on your lines. Yeah. And you go affect, you become a victim, and all this kind of stuff is the concept of the suppressive activities that are being carried out against you. So right. She pulled me aside on our way out saying, don't go PTS to all of this. So that to me told me, if I ever get in trouble, I need to talk to her, because she's got more of a head on her shoulders than anybody I'm surrounded by right now. Yes. But, she's also a victim of the entire thing. And I want to know, David Miscavige, where is Shelley? Yes. I want to know.
Yeah, me too. And if Shelley, I don't know. I just think if Shelley at any point wanted to leave, then let's keep talking about this, like I said. Yeah. And she should be free. This is the United States of America, for crying out loud. This shouldn't be possible that someone can be locked up and just vanish for 18 years and not even be heard from by their own family. Under what circumstances is that okay?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And what were your observations about their personal relationship between Shelley and Dave Miscavige?
No affection whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, she was just on the job. On the job. He doesn't have affect. I never saw him display affection. Right. Aside from after a grand opening event, he kissed the hand of Karen Hollander and said, "Good job," or something like that. That was weird.
That is weird.
Because it was the first and only time I saw him show any sort of affection. But to me, it was a little weird. And between them, whenever I would see them, unless it was in a personal capacity, but even when I was in their room, it was always business.
Yeah.
Between them, like there was no affection.
Right. Yeah. No.
What about you? Did you ever see? Just out of
No,
curiosity.
I didn't. I had the same, and I absolutely saw the same cracks starting to form that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Wherein, like one time, Shelley called me and she said, "You have no idea the position that I'm in and what I'm going through as a result." And I knew she was talking about Miscavige and his fits and everything that was going on, and it was a really, really tough situation, and she was miserable.
Yeah.
And so
She's got no friends. I mean,
Right.
if she's under guard at some property, whoever's guarding her isn't a friend, isn't
Right.
somebody you can talk to. They write down anything that she says and report it straight up, which
That's
she
right.
knows. So she can't speak freely. Could you imagine 18 years of isolation, under guard, and anything you might utter being reported to the person who's oppressing you?
Right.
It's actually
you can't
seriously.
ever say, you can't even voice, "I want to leave." Otherwise, I know you're right. It is.
And they have the fences and the guards, and how do you even do it if you want to? And she's in such an isolated place.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
I know.
Like, let's get helicopters or something.
Yeah, I know. And to my knowledge, there are three women guarding her, in addition to whatever male security guards there are. But to my knowledge, it's Antonella Teasy, who you likely knew. She was in the Religious Technology Center.
Yes.
And Anne Rathbun, Josime.
She's a witch.
She is,
in my opinion.
Yeah, she is. She is.
Didn't have an ounce of love in her heart that I ever observed. It was just, ugh.
She is a person that refused to let me even talk to Mark the second time when I found out that I was pregnant.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I did a completed staff work saying, "Please just let me talk to my husband," because I was in Clearwater and he was in California.
That you even have to ask somebody's permission to talk to your husband about such an important matter is and then it get refused. She's a witch. So she's on Shelley, huh? She's on Shelley.
She's
wow.
on Shelley. And then the other person who you may or may not know is Elsie. She was Elsie Tucker, Elsie Benrheim.
Yeah, I did see her before as Elsie Tucker up at the base, but I never really had any. I think was she doing metered interviews and all this kind of stuff?
She was. I remember
her.
Interrogation person for religious technology.
With the other young girls that were doing the interrogations. Yeah.
Yeah.
And wouldn't let you off.
And I've actually known Elsie since I was about 12. Her family got into Scientology in the UK. She's from France. But again, all of these people are 100% Scientology robots doing the bidding of David Miscavige, and that is who Shelley Miscavige is surrounded by.
Yeah.
And it occurred to me when you were talking earlier, talking about Shelley's lack of friends, I think that the beagle, she started getting beagles?
Jelly.
Yes.
They put commander stripes on Jelly.
Yes, Jelly the beagle. And she loved those dogs.
Yeah.
There was Lucy. By the time I left, she had 5, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I remember the Jelly program. They wrote a program called the Jelly program because Jelly could sniff out ethics. And so I remember I walked into the conference room one time and Jelly barked. And so it was like, "You've got crimes," because she knows that you've got crimes. And I laughed, thinking, okay, that's the biggest joke I've ever heard. And it was like, I'm serious. Okay, we're in. What's that about the horse? Yeah. We're in.
Oh,
Zoom.
Mr. Ed?
No, about the I forget what it is. Like, did Napoleon or somebody have a horse that he knighted, or I don't remember what it was. So that's what he did with his dogs, and he had Jelly walk around with commander stripes. And the other thing is that on the Jelly program was just to find all the crimes of the executives, and I was made to word clear Method 9, the Jelly program, when I came back into CMO International from my trip into Golden Era Studios. Anyway, it's a whole story in itself.
Okay. Well, I hope you'll let me do more of these with you, because it's really fun to compare notes unfiltered, because we never, so I worked on at the headquarters from 91 until 2005. So our paths crossed many, many times in 14 years. If I ever had to interrogate you or was mean to you, I apologize.
We never were on that kind of plane together. Like there were, because I think you went to Flag when you went to RTC, right?
Yes.
Did you go? Yeah. So you weren't like put onto the int execs to interrogate us. It was some other people.
Yeah. Though I was in later years, in like 98 until 2000, I was in the correction unit in Religious Technology Center. So I would have to attend all the management meetings. That's where I most remember seeing you.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this, but Shelley had me do a project with the INT executives in those years, 98,
what was it?
2000. What's that?
What was it?
So it was on the topic of, believe it or not, the computer screens. And because remember, it was the boob tube, whatever you call it, cathode ray tubes, and there was some Hubbard advice that Shelley had come across where he made reference to the fact that those kind of TVs could be quote unquote hypnotic. So Shelley had me do this project of doing before and after testing with certain Scientology management executives that she picked out. And I just don't remember if you were one of them or not.
I don't think I was.
Like Diane Caneas was one of them. Anyway, a bunch of people. But so, and so we got, I had to get LED screens. LCD
I remember getting the LED screens or LEDs or whatever it was, the screen that we put in front of it. I remember the result of your project, but I don't remember getting tested to see if I was a zombie.
It was like, it was kind of funny because it was, do a full battery of tests before, then get them a new computer screen, and then do a full battery of tests afterwards and see if there was any improvement. Anyway, it was this whole thing.
Yeah. I did a million tests. Maybe I just didn't know I was being checked for being a robot.
Right? Yeah, exactly. The one, I will say though, the one project I know did have an impact on you that was initiated by Shelley was in later years, she decided that the reason management was not performing is because they had unhandled drugs, and she had everybody put back on the pure. Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. Oh yeah, Shelley. Yeah. Wrong why. I wasn't even a heavy druggie. To sit in a sauna for 8 months with 5,000 niacin, you could really damage somebody.
Yes, I know.
And I wasn't the only one. There was a lot of us on that thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know that
I didn't think you knew that. And
no, I didn't. I thought it was right out of Miscavige's bright idea.
It could have been something that he said, oh, they're probably all druggies, but she was
because he talked about us being druggies, so
yeah.
And I know that he was on board with it for sure if it wasn't his idea. Yeah,
absolutely.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, but all right. So any other Shelley experiences you would like to share?
Well, those are the things that I can think of right off, but I want to just let everybody know that I'm praying for her freedom and for Scientology to lose its tax exempt status, because that's what they hide behind. All of their crimes are religiously protected somehow, and to me that's just that's where everything went off the rails.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And David Miscavige totally changed. It was like, now I'm a free man to do whatever the hell I want to you guys. And I think that if we just keep speaking out, we will keep raising awareness. because if it can happen to her, it can happen to anybody. And I'm sure that there's family members that want to know where their loved ones are because they're out of touch. And so just keep spreading the word, keep getting the word out, and one day we'll make a breakthrough.
Yes, absolutely. And I thought it would be nice to end with, what would you like to tell Shelley if you had the opportunity to see her now?
Shelley. It's hard, huh? Just, we're here. We're here. You'll be welcome with open arms. And that kills David Miscavige to hear that. And I'm glad because David, what you're doing is of the devil. And God sees everything, even if it's in the dark. So Shelley, we're here and we will help you. 100%. Awesome. Yeah.
Well said. And thank you again so much for agreeing to participate in this.
And I'm standing up despite all of their harassment. And it's not easy. It's not fun to have my stupid hate websites and all these videos and all these things, PIs and whatever they do, because they're such a scummy organization. It's not fun, but I do it anyway because I know that it's right. And they make their own worst enemies because they cannot take responsibility for one single thing. They cannot get their act together, and because they take family members and use them as leverage, and it's disgusting. And so people don't just let go because of that. So
amen. And very well said.
A little fired up on the subject.
Yes, no, I so appreciate it. And you nailed it all around.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you again. I can't wait until our next episode together. I love collaborating with all of you. You're a wonderful person and a great friend.
You so much.
And
thank you. You too, boy. Of course.
And until next time. Love you.
Love to you and love to everybody who's watching. Thank you for your support. It really means a lot.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.